Hey YouTube, it's your girl Chic from Chic Say What. I am coming on here live tonight. It's a late night, at least for me. Normally I do my recordings earlier in the day, but I'm here for a late night talk about a discussion. I guess I listened in on it. I didn't call in to give any feedback. I was kind of doing some things. So I was kind of listening to in the background. But as you can see, my title is Who's Having Babies More, Black Men or Black Women, or Black Women or Black Men? But so I found it to be a very interesting argument because it was one, I guess I've been hearing kind of people throwing around that question. So it was an interesting live that I heard, as various people from different backgrounds had opinions on the matter. So before we go any further, if you can like, share, subscribe, share the live, join in, make your comments, all of that, and we'll get started. So the question came up, who's having babies more? So the premise of the discussion was really, are men, in particular Black men, getting flack for, I guess, I don't know if we would probably call it an epidemic as far as with the number of children who are in single parent households. So more often than not, that child is in the household with the mother. So the parents aren't married. As we know, the marriage rate, in the Black community is pretty low. The last I checked, it was maybe about 29%. So it's pretty low. Birth rates to mothers who aren't married is typically upwards of about 80%. So we'll get into some stats in a little while. I found some articles I want to share with you, but I just want to give you kind of the background as to, where I'm trying to go as far as with this conversation. So I want you just to think about just who's having babies more. Is it women who are having babies with the same Black men, or is it men equally impregnating women, I guess, at the rates that we're seeing women becoming pregnant? So the argument that I was hearing, one side was, well, if women are having these babies, they're not having them by themselves. They're having babies with Black men. So men, you share fault with, these numbers being staggering as far as children being born out of wedlock, children being in single parent households. So that was one argument. The second argument was, okay, well, women are having these babies. However, they're having them with the quote unquote Pookies and Ray Rays, which is a small percentage of the Black male community. So women are having babies, but they're having babies with maybe like a small pool of like the same men. So for example, think of someone like, let's just use the rapper Future, for example. He has maybe about 6 kids, at least the ones that he claimed. So that's what we're going to go with. Let's just say 6 kids with 5 or 6 moms. That's a lot of kids just with that one man. So there's the argument of, yes, women are having babies, but they're having babies with the same pool of men because men collectively have children or have fewer kids than women. So I want to dive into that because not that long ago, I did have someone, I believe maybe on my last video, where someone left a comment saying that, men have babies in a smaller number than women. So I'm like, okay, I'd heard that before, but I'd never kind of delved into it to see, okay, is that true? Do men have babies far less than women? And if that's the case, then we got to take it back to that narrative of men ain't ish, their Pookies and Ray Rays, because there's a lot of female-led platforms where that's basically the dialogue. The content is basically surrounding men ain't ish. You know, if you may be familiar with, say, the YouTuber Cynthia G, I do, check her out and listen to her content. But that's, for the most part, that's the only thing she talk about, is just how the black man, a worth knocking in the head, per se. So with that being said, if black men, let's just say, largely the title of Pookie and Ray Ray is collected, in reference to these black men who have children. So more often than not, if I hear someone refer to someone as Pookie and Ray Ray, it's pertaining to their lack of presence in their children's lives, as fathers. So they'll earn a title Pookie and Ray Ray. But if men are having children at a lower rate than women, is that really a true statement? Are they really collectively Pookies and Ray Rays? Now, I will say I don't subscribe to most black men being a Pookie and Ray Ray or being no good. I just don't believe that. I happen to be married to a black man of almost 17 years, and he's certainly not a Pookie and Ray Ray. Very responsible father to our 3 children, a responsible, loyal, great husband. So he's definitely an example of an upstanding man. I've seen other men who, to me, are examples of upstanding men. So I don't subscribe that just all men ain't ish and they can all go to hell. Like, that's not the belief that I have. But like I said, I listen to different platforms because I like to hear the thoughts of men and women and their thoughts of one another. And I've concluded that they're it's kind of like they're so on opposite ends of one another, to where there's something missing. And I don't know if collectively they're not talking or communicating enough. Everyone's kind of creating their own platforms, just talking about the other sex. Because men, I'll hear their platform and they say, Keisha, let's just use Keisha, Keisha ain't nothing, she not taking care of the kids. She, just a baby mama. So they'll go in and talk about the women too. It goes both ways. So my question primarily is as it relates to just men and the reputation that men have as a whole, because I personally feel like women are speaking kind of louder to me as far as when I hear about their opinions of men. I'm now starting to hear like men just will say, okay, well, we got our opinion of y'all too. Like, so that's kind of like fairly new, but forever, just since I was a kid, you hear the grownups just talking about men and their shortcomings. Fortunately, that hasn't been my experience, like I said, as a married woman, but I do know it is a real thing. And then the experience of some women out there. So let's get into these numbers. I want to share my screen, and I came across this article. Let me see, from the, let's say, the Washington Examiner, and this is from 2017. So 77% of Black births to single moms, 49% for Hispanic immigrants. So it says more than 3/4 of African-American births are to unmarried women, nearly double the illegitimacy rate of other births, according to the new federal data. So that's a pretty, high number for Black women as far as, them bringing children into the world and being unmarried. So that number doesn't really dictate as whether or not like there's a man that's kind of by her side. It's going off of, okay, is this woman married? Because basically, if you're not married, it's for statistical purposes, you're considered single. So you would fall into that pool if you're not married. And as I said, 29%, the last I've checked, of Black people are married. So I'm in a very small pool, and that's been a small number for quite some time. So 77% Black births to single moms. When I go to this other article that I found, it shows data pertaining to pertaining to men. So let me bring that one up so you can let me just bring you that article up, and it has some data pertaining to men that I found to be quite interesting, data that I'd never seen before. So let's see. Okay. So this Census Bureau releases first ever report on men's fertility. So this is dated June 13th, 2019. Okay, so over 1/3 of men are married and have biological children with their spouse. There are also 2.9 million men, which is 2.4%, who are living with an unmarried partner and have biological children with that partner. Nearly 1 in 10 men have children with more than one person. Okay. While most fathers live with at least some of their biological children, they also live with a variety of other children. About 4 million men live with 5.6 million minor stepchildren or other children of unmarried partners. So, we're basically talking about the women that they're coming encounter with who already have children as they enter into the relationship. So for you fellas who come across this live or after I post it, think about the number of women you've dated that had children already. Think about the number of children they had, and think about the number of fathers that she have amongst the children. So that's just some information or some things I want you to kind of think about as I'm going over these numbers. Additionally, only 13 million men live with about 23 million other children ages 0 to 17. So these are minors, including grandchildren, nieces, nephews, minor siblings, foster children. There are 29.2 million grandfathers, or roughly 24.1% of all men aged 15 and over. Of the men who live with their own or a spouse of a partner's children under the age of 18, about 1% also live with grandchildren. So let's go even deeper. Of the 72.2 million fathers, 5.9 million, which is 8.2, have never been married. About 73.4% of fathers are married. 12.9% are divorced, and 3.2 are widowed, and 2.3 are separated. By race, about 1% of white, Asian, Hispanic men ages 15 and 19 are fathers, compared to about 3% of Black men of the same age. So this is saying only 3% of Black men are fathers, by the age of 15 to 19, if I'm reading this correct. About 1% of white, Asian, Hispanic men ages 15 to 19 are fathers. So they're saying only 3% within that age group are fathers. So that's a very low number. So let's think about the number of women that we know that became mothers in that group right there. Among men ages 20 to 29, 21.2% of white men, 24.9% of Black men, 12.4% of Asian men, and 29.4% of Hispanic men are fathers. So when I read this data, just looking at these numbers, and they're fairly low, it has me to believe that, yes, collectively, men father less children than women. So it goes back to that argument of, are these women having children with the same pool of men, the quote unquote Pookies and Ray Ray? So to take it a step further, does this data support the argument that some may have as to say there are a good number of decent or good Black men out there who aren't just running around fathering children? The numbers, I always say the numbers don't lie. It is what it is. Education attainment, about 14% of fathers do not have a high school diploma, and roughly 12% of fathers hold a graduate or professional degree. Among men ages 40 to 50 years old, men with bachelor's degree are less likely to have children than men with less than high school diploma. So it's very interesting, numbers and information. And I believe that, when we see numbers like that, it really makes you question the narrative of our Black men collectively trash, because women are clearly, out there, they're having babies. Yes, they're having babies with Black men, but based on the data, they're not having babies with all of the Black men that are out there. They're having babies with a small number of Black men. Because most Black women, their babies are by they're having babies by Black men, opposed to having babies with men of other cultural groups. And I heard the argument, which I actually was recently, talking to my husband about this, where I just yesterday, where one gentleman said that he didn't feel that women was held to be accountable in the same manner as men. Like, for example, when a man, he has a children, he's not there. He has a child, I'm sorry, he's not there. He's looked at very closely. That's when the names get to call. Oh, you're this, you're that, Pookie, Ray Ray, you're no good, you're a dog, you're trash. But when you have a woman, let's just say we call her Keisha. Keisha has 5 kids, 5 different men. It's almost like, okay, there's a pass for her. There's, you just going to go with the narrative of, okay, these men just ran off and left her. We're not really putting a lot of weight or energy onto, okay, these men that Keisha continues to get pregnant by, are they of the same caliber? Are they of the same quality? Because why else would you continue to have children? And then these men who are impregnating you, why would they want to plant their seed in you, knowing that, okay, you've had 4 other men's seed planted in you? So it goes back to the mindset. So it's Keisha and Pookie meeting up because they have the same thought process, the same ideology, the same moral compass. And is it that there's more Keishas in the world than Pookies in the world? Because remember, we saw that data, and the numbers of births outside of, by unwed mother was 77%. And that was a 2017 article. So like I said, I think it's far easier and I guess marketable to push that notion that, okay, men ain't nothing because they're running around, they're having these babies, they're not taking care of them. And yes, you do have your pool of men who are doing that. You do. However, based on the numbers, there are far more women who are exhibiting that type of, as far as reckless behavior, as far as continuously having these children out of wedlock. The numbers are far greater within the community for Black women than they are for Black men. So, as I always say, I'm an equal opportunist. I look at both sides of the coin, and much of it, I'm a woman. However, I have sons, I have a brother, I have uncles. So I see things from different angles, because I do believe that based on the system, it is more favorable for women. I happen to be someone who believes that blood tests should be required before a man signs his name on a birth certificate. There's so many men who get caught up in the system pertaining to child support, and then they learn that the child's not even theirs. And a lot of times they learn that after they've spent years paying child support, some still paying on back child support, and the child's like grown. So in those situations are very unfortunate and disheartening. And I see it happen over and over again. I like to watch the show on YouTube, Fertility Court. So that's how I see it happens a lot, in particular in the Black community. And I take note that when the man and the woman are there on that show, it's more energy that's given to the man. It's almost like it's presumed that, okay, you are the father. So they're getting all that pushback, that negative. Where were you? Why didn't you do that? This, that, and that, third. But then when the results come back, and about a good 50% of the time, maybe he's not the father, I don't see that same energy kind of given to the woman who insisted that she was 110% sure that he was the father, because, quote unquote, I've never been with anyone else. But when the test results come back to show that Keith wasn't the father, Keisha's looking crazy. And sometimes she'll, when judge say, do you know who the father? Suddenly, oh yeah, I know who the father. It's like, but 2 seconds ago, you said there was no other viable option. Or she'll say, oh, those test results got to be wrong because I wasn't with anyone else. Sis, again, science don't lie, just like these numbers don't lie that I'm talking to you all about. So when that happens, I don't see that same energy giving to the woman when she's playing games, when she's intentionally being deceitful. But when Keith's up there and he's speaking, it's almost like it's assumed like, okay, you're full of, you know, good, you lying, you knew this baby was, it's like it's automatically that energy of you're guilty. And I personally don't feel like that's fair, but I see it happen so much. So when I think about as far as with just every day, and I listen to the content that fellow, YouTubers have on their platforms, it just makes me wonder, like, okay, are these women bashing men? Does it come down to the quality of men that these women are choosing to date? Are they dating the same caliber of men, but choosing to just lump all men into the same category? And is that fair? And more often than not on these platforms, it's not an environment that allows other people with different opinions to come on. And if they do come on, it's kind of basically the tone, it's just bad energy towards that person who has an opposing view. So it's like, is it easier to just point the finger just to say, okay, men ain't ish, they're all bad. You're not a good father. You're not a good man. You don't want to is it easier to go down that path to talk negatively about the man versus really focusing on the decisions that you as a woman have personally made? And let's start with the caliber of men you've chosen to give your time, the caliber of men you've chosen to plant their seed into your womb. Like, it's deeper than that. And I feel like to go down that path to talk about our shortcoming as women, it's painful. It's far easier to point the finger and say, you ain't nothing, than it is to be accountable and take responsibility. Because once you're accountable, that's you acknowledging, and once you acknowledge, that means it's time for you to put the work in to make a change, because you've acknowledged a problem. And I think that with a lot of women that I hear, they don't want to do that. Now, granted, I do see you do have some trash men out there. You do. But this conversation is pertaining to when it comes to procreating, bringing babies into this world. Women are doing that. Women have the primary control over that. Yes, the man can impregnate you, but women have the control over the decision to bring the child into the world. And as the numbers show, more women are getting pregnant than men impregnating the women. Again, going back to it being a small pool of men who's impregnating these women based off of the numbers that we see, which shows that men have kids at much lower numbers than women. We can't ignore that. No matter how much we may not like that information, it is what it is. So I think that it's time for that to be discussed amongst women. Why are we having children out of wedlock, giving our womb without demanding anything in return, without requiring for this man to wife us up? It was a woman who called in on the platform I was listening to, and she said she had one child and she was still with the father, and they've been together for 8 years. Huh? I'm confused on how you're giving someone 8 years of your life, you're raising a child, but there's no marriage, no formal commitment taking place, no contract. Like what are you trying to put in place for your child? What foundation are you trying to plant? Yes, it's great that you guys are both raising that child together in the same home. That's definitely far better than the child having to go between two homes or one of the parents being absent. But sis, I still need to understand why you feel that it's okay to be with this man for 8 years and not require for him to take your hand in marriage, because at this point it's a requirement. And I honestly feel that more women will be married as they want to if they required it. If they required it from that man. If that man sees that it's not a requirement to give you that ring, it's not a requirement to take care of home, it's not a requirement to be honest, be true with you, be faithful to, like, if they see that there is no requirement, no standards, nothing like that, they just gonna do what they want. It's just like a kid. If you don't have any type of structure or put any parameters in place, they just gonna run amok. So we have to, as ladies, have to demand more. And when I say demand more, that I'm saying early on when we meet these men, we have to lay it out on the table as to what it is that we're looking or what we're expecting for, what we're expecting. Let's talk about what it is that I want. And then let's talk about what it is you want. And we have to see if those things line up. And if those things do not line up, deuces, like, there's no time to be wasting anymore. Ladies, we can't be with men. Say we get with them at 22 and then at 32, we finally figure out, oh, he ain't trying to take this nowhere. And now we're back on the market. We've gotten older. We're closer to that time frame of, or that recommended time to where they recommend you have a baby by. Like, we've wasted a lot of time for what? For what? Because 9 times out of 10, much early on in that relationship, that man showed that he wasn't trying to come through and give to you what it was that you were wanting. Hey, Southpaw Dominance, you say, it sounds like the numbers show that our Black moral compass and value systems are off for both Black men and women. Yes, I agree with that. It's very off, but I think that we're spending so much time pointing the finger. And I think that's what we do in our community, is we spend so much time pointing the finger and we don't spend enough time trying to find the solution. And everyone just want to just argue with one another and go back and forth with one another. I think, for clicks and views, like, what are we doing? Like, it's doing absolutely nothing to jump on your platform and just bash one another for 3 hours for cash apps and super chats. Like, what are we doing? It does absolutely nothing for our community. It's actually an embarrassment to me. And more often than not, I find platforms that are one-sided. It's not that often I come across a platform where it's speaking on both sides. Like, I like to consider my platform as one that just points out the inadequacies on both sides. Like I want to point out, okay, where women are winning, where men are winning, like that's just who I am. Like I said, I'm a mother of sons and a daughter. I'm a woman. I'm married to a black man. So I'm not going to be on here bashing black men. And I'm not going to be on here dogging our sisters either. I'm going to be on here to encourage for our black men and women to come together and try to figure this thing out. Ladies, for starters, we got to stop freely just allowing for these men to plant their seeds in our body. Because what I heard recently a man talk about is that just as a woman has the ability to trap a man, and you fellas, if you're listening, you can co-sign, a man mentally can have that same thought process to tie down a woman. I've seen examples to where I felt like that's exactly what happened when a woman came up pregnant. I've actually, I feel like it's a real thing, because just in my own personal life, as far as my circle and family, I've seen that happen where I felt like that man wanted to sit that woman down. So he impregnated her. And yes, pregnancy, both parties are responsible. But just based off of the dynamics of the relationship, where I seen that woman was showing that she was on her way out, suddenly he impregnates her. So I think that is a real thing, that men will do that. They'll sit, because I felt like, he did that. He wanted to sit her down, at least sit her down for a year, because, you're pregnant for almost a full year. So I felt like, bro impregnated her. He wanted to sit her down. And that's what happened. And he sat her down. So it's a real thing. And I think women have to be aware of that's a thing, and that men can do that. Men can do that as well. Because I heard this one gentleman say, who kicked it like that. He was speaking from a male perspective. He said it's far easier to get out of a marriage with a woman. You can easily divorce somebody, be gone. But when you throw a child in that situation, you with them for life. Like, it's no okay until 18. Because when you think about it, if you have children or you're forever going to be that child's parent. So think about it. They're going to be 25, 30. They're going to have kids. Like, both of y'all are going to be at the cookout. Like, you're forever that child's father. She's forever that child's mother. So that's a forever thing. Southpaw, you say young women should be schooled in the art of selection. I so heartily agree with that. I preach a lot of that on my platform, because I feel like a lot of women out there talk about what they want. They want to be married. They want this and that, but I don't feel like they know how to go about getting it. And I'm one of those people that believe that if there's something you want, you got to find somebody who has it and speak to them and get that gain from them. I feel like I have a lot to offer to the young ladies, because I've been married for so long. So I know what goes into, getting a husband, keeping a husband. I know what goes into all of that. And I think a lot of our young ladies are lost in the sauce. They have no clue. All they know is what they want, but how to get it. They don't know what it's going to take to get it and keep it. They have no clue. A lot of them aren't really even interested in that part, because they just want to focus on what they want. It don't work that way, sis. You got to put that work in. You don't just wake up and be married for 17 years. No, you put that work in. You can ask anybody who's been married for a lot of years. There's work that's put in that. And a lot of people, men and women, nobody want to put the work in. Everybody want what they want. Then they get what they want, or if it don't work out, they move on. And now they just dogging and bashing one another when nobody want to put the work in. Nobody want to put the work in. And I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. It's work. But anything worth having, you're going to work for it, right? Just think about anything. If it's coming easy, 9 times out of 10, it ain't really worth nothing. But if you put that work in, you're going to look at it differently. It shows the value that you have into something or someone when you're willing to put the work in. And people don't have value on one another like that. Women, first of all, we're not even valuing our bodies enough like that. Like sometimes I'd be wondering, I was talking to my sister one day and I'm like, these women who are single moms, a lot of them are single moms like 4 or 5 times over. So my thought process is, okay, when you become a single mom with 1 or 2 kids, do you just become immune to that and just be like, yo, I can just do this thing? Like, do you just feel like, okay, well, I was a single mom to little Ray Ray and little Nene, so I can do it for little Cece as well. Like, I don't get it. My thought process is, if you've already experienced that thing once is enough for me. I ain't trying to sign up to do that crap again if I don't have to. Like, when do we learn? It's not realistic to continue to do the same thing over and over again and then still complain about the results. Like, make it make sense. Like, it has to make sense. To me, it weakens the argument when you're constantly making that same mistake over and over again. And when I call a mistake, I'm not necessarily referring to the child as a mistake. I'm referring to the circumstances. You know, recently I learned that there was a woman, I think she might was profiled on CNN, but she had put up a GoFundMe and she worked in Vegas as a dealer. She had 3 kids, single mom. She got caught up in the whole rent, with the whole rent thing we've been, where people hadn't been able to afford their rent, all that's been in the media. Well, she did a GoFundMe. I think her goal was, it was under 3,000. It was like $2,200, $2,500, but sis ended up accumulating just within, I think, maybe 48 hours, just a short period of time, over $170,000. She was a single mom, 3 kids. People sympathized for her. So I feel like a lot of times when people make decisions, when people make poor decisions, in particular women, we're going to talk about women, in particular women, people coming through for you like that, it doesn't make it almost make it easy on that person to where they're not required to have to do better and make better decisions. And I see that happens a lot with women, because oftentimes it's like, oh, she is single parent. Like, we just want to come through for that person. And yes, we can help people, but at the same time, we can't ignore how a person got into a situation. We can't overlook that part and not want to talk about it to see what happened. Why did we go down that path? And we just want to come through and like I say, use an example, paternity court. Oh, judge, give her a little pep talk. But to me, I just feel like it's more accountability and ownership that's put on the man than the woman. Now, sometimes she'll kind of go hard on the woman, but not like she do the men. And I go to the comments and I read it, and there's many people who feel that way. Like, they'll be like, really, like they really be feeling like she just goes too light on the women. And some of them are repeat, where they'll come back multiple times trying to learn who their child's father is. Where's the accountability? We have to be accountable. We have to talk to our young women, our young ladies, about accountability. It's about cause and effect. Like, cause and effect is a real thing. And if we want to skirt over the effect, and then you just continue to have the cause, what is it doing for our community collectively? It's not doing anything positive. But though we can create platforms to just talk about how these men left us or made us baby mamas, but not talk about the signs that were there that let it be known that Keith and Ray Ray and Pookie, that they weren't about nothing. Like, that part don't be discussed on the platform. It's just strictly, you ain't nothing, you ain't this. And a lot of times they're very bitter. You can just hear it. It's like they're very bitter. So it's more so not a solutions oriented platform. It's more of a place for women who are in their feelings to come and vent. And I get everyone has a story, but I don't really see many platforms where it's about the accountability piece and what women can do to try to build and make better decisions to work on themselves, get in a position where they feel independent, where they not feeling like they got to rely on some man to come through and throw them a few dollars and put up with their book. Like, I don't see enough platforms like that where it's about, let's focus on just improving ourselves and not spend so much energy on focusing on of men. I don't see enough of those. Now, granted, there are some out there, but to me, it's more platforms out there that want to down the Black man, or just say, okay, well, forget it, just divest and go to another community and just forget about the Black man, without ever even dealing with your own individual, your own personal shortcomings. Like, if you got issues with you're gonna take that over to Brad. If you don't know how to talk to people, or if you're rude or ignorant, like, you don't think Brad gonna feel that energy? Yeah, he gonna feel that energy. I think Brad just not gonna he ain't gonna entertain it as long as Keith did. I think Brad will be like, I don't know what this about. We ain't used to this dysfunction over here. I don't think that he's going to entertain it more. And then, so it's like, we got to deal with our stuff. We can't run from things, basically. Like, we got to take ownership of our stuff. We got to own our stuff. And I'm an advocate of, counseling, seeking counseling, like going and getting help and talking to somebody about that type of thing, because it makes a difference. And I know collectively in the Black community, that's just not something that's pushed. I'm hearing more now about it, but historically, Black folks don't go to counseling. What they say, I got Jesus, I got God. Like grandma, mama, they pulled out their Bible. They didn't, don't go telling our business, don't talk about that. It's just sweep everything under the rug, and look what that it's gotten us with all the secrets. It hasn't gotten us anyway. So my thing is, if you see that what you've been doing haven't been working, it's time to try something new, right? And like, we got to try something different. And I personally feel that more young Black girls, Black women of all age group, we need to explore counseling resources, because I'm an advocate of counseling and, resource, going down that path, just from my own educational background. Like, I feel it makes a difference, but there's so many women who feel like, I don't need that, or, that's not going to make it. Like, if they only knew, and the main ones who give pushback about it are the ones who really need it. Like, they really walking around in these streets like they got their stuff together. And it's just like, sis, if you could only see yourself from my view, or yourself from the world's view, you got some stuff going on that you really need to unpack. And you're just taking that baggage and that stuff over to each of your relationships. And then when each of them fail, you just want to throw them away, throw them in away, put them all in trash, put them all in the same category, and take zero ownership for your role in the dysfunctional relationship. Zero. You don't even want to even possibly entertain the idea of the dysfunction having anything to do with you, or even being rooted into anything that any negative energy you gave in a relationship. Oh yeah, that ain't even an option to even try to go that route. It's strictly you. And I hear that, and I believe that it's just easier to point the finger and say you. I just think it's easier. It all comes back to accountability. I'm just a big advocate of being accountable, having effective communication, because just even in the home, if the children see that their parents have effective communication, that's going to impact them to where that's all they're going to know is how to, communicate with someone effectively. But if they see dysfunction, toxic behavior, that's going to impact them as well, to where they may start demonstrating toxic behavior, or they'll shut down and develop anxiety and all kinds of other things, in the whole mental health realm as a result of just being in that toxic, dysfunctional environment. So it's layered to this. It's layers to this. It's layers, and we got to figure this thing out, because we got to turn these numbers around. We have to, as I say, each one teach one. We have to. And right now it's like I'm open to, like, I'll see different platforms, join their panel, speak to them, speak a word that they may or may not have heard. Because usually, more often than not, I'm the only one that's probably married or been married as long as I have. So it's almost like a diamond in the rough. Like, it's not many ladies who have the same background as me when it comes to the relationship area. Most of them they're single, they're bitter, they're wanting to be married. They're just trying to figure this thing out. They're like, a lot of them just have cold, like their hearts are hardened just from their experiences. And when they speak, you can hear it, it comes out. Like, it's sometimes I just wonder, some of these women that I hear on their platforms, when they speak, or when do they ever play back their recordings to hear how they sound, because they sound so hurt and bitter. They sound so hurt and bitter. And my thing is, you have to stop and deal with that. Let's just get off of YouTube and stop. Let's just go and deal with that. Let's explore what's taking place. Let's see if there's something else to be done differently. Because like I said, most of these women that I do hear speak, in anger and disdain about the Black men, I don't get the impression that they have men of any cultural group. Like, I get the impression that they're just single, like, because a lot of them, like, they never talk about men or even dating out of they just don't talk about them. It's just, they don't talk about being in a relationship. It's just straight, men ain't ish, men are trash, but they don't talk about, okay, well, I got a good one now. And it's like their life is now just filled with just anger, and they spend their days and their hours are spent with just being on YouTube, letting the world know that, men, I hate you. Like, because that's generally like what I pick up. Like, okay, these women like legit hate these Black men. And that hatred that they have in their heart, that's not doing anything for the man. That's actually impacting you more. That's hardening you. That's not doing nothing for him. He don't really even care, or he probably don't even know that you still in his, like, he's moved on. He's doing his thing, living his best life. And ladies, that's what we got to do. Let it go. Moral of the story, let it go. There's so many women who don't know how to let it go. I almost feel like they don't want to let it go, because it's like, if you let it go, then that's when you have that quiet time, and you're forced to reflect and have to put in that work, and you have to kind of look at yourself and take ownership and responsibility. Who's trying to do that? They're not trying to do that. So it's far easier to just speak venom and just sit in the anger. It's easier to do that than to just, what does Elsa say, let it go, let it go. They not trying to do that. They not trying to do that. And it's so obvious. So then other women who share the same sentiments about men, they flock. Like I say, when I visit, I do it just to get an idea of, where these women, just their thoughts when it comes to men. I just like to know, like, how are people feeling out here? What are their thoughts? What are their opinions? And it helps me to, create content to talk about it, because I would love to kind of help to kind of mend and close that gap. Get men and women talking, because oftentimes that's not you're not really seeing it happen like that on platforms where, okay, the man and the woman are kind of having a civil conversation and they're on opposing sides. The more often than not, the platforms are, okay, everyone on there is kind of sharing pretty much like the same sentiments about the matter. And people who have opposing opinions, a lot of times, it's not really welcomed. Like, especially more so, when I listen to, I'm sorry, not the women, the Black women content creators, when there's an opposing view, it's very harsh and, greatly challenged. And that's fine. You can challenge it, but I don't get the whole impression of, okay, it's an environment where people can respectfully, it's not an agree to disagree type situation. It's just like, okay, well, something's wrong with you if you don't see things my way. And they'll have a certain tone against the person, or they might hang up. I mean, it's just bad. It's just bad. I just would like to see more of a dialogue. That's all. I mean, I think it would make a difference. It would just be a better look for our community if we show that, hey, we can come together and have a dialogue about a matter. Because think about it. Do you see other cultural groups having YouTube channels where they're talking about one another as far as men and women? Like, think about like your Asian cultural groups, Hispanic cultural group, Indian cultural group. Like, do you see any depiction of like men and women like being against one another? Like, I don't ever see it. I don't ever hear it talked about. It's like something that I see that happens like in our group, like far too often. And if it is happening in other groups, it's not on a level to where, like I say, where we're hearing people talk about it. Cause I don't hear any other platforms talking about it. Like, oh yeah, that Asian group, they was just at it yesterday. Y'all check this out. Like, you're not hearing that. You're not hearing them disrespect the women, disrespecting the men in our cultural group, the men disrespecting the women in our cultural group. Like, you're not seeing that. Like, they're a team. They're a team. And it's like they're on code. That's the thing. They're on code with one another. But with our group, like, we're not on code. It's almost like every man for themselves. Nobody's on code. It's just like, okay, so what? I don't care. I'm showing out in front of this other cultural group and I'm talking about, like, it's no, okay, well, let's like act like we got some sense. We got some onlookers. Like, they don't even care. It's just like, they just gonna show out whatever and don't even care. And that's the thing. We live in a culture right now where people just don't care. And when you don't care, that goes to show that's back to standards. That mean, okay, because to have standards mean you care. You care. When you're looking you're a certain way, us women, when we present ourselves, when we're going outside, if we're, if we have a fit look, as far as about our body, or if we have our hair done, or if we're wearing a bonnet, like that all, it sends a message to the onlookers. It sends the message, like, if someone's presenting their best self, and when I say best self, they care about what they look like, they're fit, they make sure their hair is presentable, they're clean, the basics, what somebody who looks put together looks like. Like, that sends a message like, okay, this is somebody who cares. But when you see somebody leave a house and they just got the bonnet on, the slippers on, the pajama pants on, like, you like, okay, well, I guess they just didn't care today. Like, so we know what it is. So whether or not we want to own that, or we want to focus on, oh, well, that shouldn't be important, that's deflecting. Like, come on. What does that do for anyone when we deflect? It does nothing. It does nothing. It just strengthens the argument of the person who's presenting it. If you don't want to put your best foot forward, if you don't want to, be fit for whatever reason, that's your business. But at the same time, when you choose to not put that work in, you also can't complain about not getting the results you want. That part. You can't complain about not having a man, not having a quality man, somebody not asking you out, taking you out to be, treating you like a lady. You can't complain about none of that if you're not willing to put in any work or effort. You can't. Because us women, we are quick to talk about what we want and expect out of a man. We want him to be this tall. We want we talk about those things. But it seemed like when a man talks about the things that he wants from the woman, it's a problem. So again, it goes back to that double standard. It's a problem followed by the word shame. Like, I hate that whole shame thing because it's something that, to me, I think women hide behind. Fat shame, whatever shame. Like, I don't ever hear a man use shame, when they talk about something. Like, it's women. If a man talks about the standards that he have, it's shame. But though women all day long can talk about the standards, we put it in song. Like, fellas, we talk. Like, women talk about the things they like and they want. And you have women who are bold to openly talk about what they want. And it's like, it's not a problem. Like, I don't see, men making it a problem of, oh, she height shamed me because she said, she don't want nobody who is 5 feet 5 inches. Like, men ain't running around doing that. But if old boy say, okay, well, I want a woman who's fit. I want a woman who's 5'4", 125 pounds, like, and you don't meet that description. Oh, he fat shaming me. He got a problem. He don't like what? When did we come into a time where women was allowed to have a standard, a requirement, a preference, and men not be able to have the same? Like, I don't rock with that. I don't get that. But and it's so annoying, but it's such a big thing. It's just like, or peep this, maybe, I don't know if you fellas have noticed this, but a lot of big women, the women I know, they don't want no parts of a big man. Like, they don't want nothing to do with, listen, y'all fellas, if you a big dude, a big girl don't want nothing to do with you. Have y'all ever seen Lizzo lust over a big man? Like, think about it. Have you ever seen her lust over a big man? Have you ever heard about her sliding in the DMs of a big man? No, big women like fit men. But the minute these fit men start expressing what they like, or say, okay, I'm not interested in a big woman. Oh, it is a problem. You're fat shaming. Like, I used to work with a woman. She was a big woman. She was like, no, I can't date a big man. We'd be like two pigs in a blanket. Like, what? Like, that's what she said. So her thing was like, no, he got to be, small. Like, I've seen it. I've had friends who were like, nah, his belly was kind of big. Mind you, like, sis was like 350. This is pre getting gastric. But she talking about his belly. Southpaw, you said, do you see athletes, comedians, or entertainers or other races or cultures battling as we do? What our community does is not isolated to YouTube. No, it's not. It's not isolated. I think that YouTube is it's a big platform. A lot of people don't watch TV. And a lot of these people, like comedian, if you take a notice, a lot of entertainers have turned to YouTube. They've started YouTube channels. During the pandemic, just a lot of people, I guess, they had to find other streams of income, other ways to continue to grow their brand, to keep their name alive. So they jumped on YouTube. So they're talking, and now they're a part of the YouTube community. Just keep it, pay attention. They're now a part of the YouTube community. So they're expressing their opinions about how they feel about women, Black women, like all of that. They got something to say too. So it's just not isolated to just, YouTubers. It's like everybody pretty much across the board. And I think just with I think that when you have your entertainers or athletes, comedians, their platform is so large to where when they speak out and say something perhaps negatively about the community, whether it's the men say something negatively about the women or the women say something negative about the men, it goes viral. It's like if you see somebody on that status, let's just say you see their new girl is a whole white woman, like that's going to create, talking about a man and he's now with Becky, like that's going to create talk and chatter, even though John next door, got his, white woman, Sarah. But it's like when it's put on a platform like that for more people to see, it becomes a talking point, and women who are already in their feelings, it's like, see there, I told y'all, and it's just that because they have this platform and it can be seen by more people, it's like it's more of a magnifying glass on their lives. So people are able to see what they're doing. And then, with celebrities, if you're putting it out there, it's nothing off limits about your life if you're putting it out there. So people are talking about it. So they're having something to say about the decisions that you're making in your personal life. And a lot of women, when they see stuff like that, they're getting in their feelings about it. And my thing is, don't get in your feelings about it. Go on and do you, whatever that is. Like, as I believe, I live by love who love you. Like, if he not showing you love, okay, go and be with somebody who is, because I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there who will show you love. But we got to stop focusing on the ones who we feel that's not showing us love. Okay, that's fine. Everybody's not going to love you. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to find you attractive. That is perfectly fine. It's okay. We don't live in a world where we require someone else's approval or validation. We need to understand that. Move on. So ladies who are unhappy with Black men, disappointed, move on. Because to me, when you talk about something, even when it's negatively and you give it that energy, to me, it shines light on the fact that you haven't let go and you still are emotionally tied to that person or group of people. So, for example, these women who are going hard on the Black men and said, they ain't this, they ain't that, and they have all this anger and venom, to me, it lets me know, wow, these women they want these men, like they low key want to be in relationship with these men. And it's almost like they're trying to shame these men into coming back home, and it ain't working. That's the thing. It's not working. These men are basically saying, see, that's why I don't even want to be over there with you. All that toxic energy, that masculine energy, like it's not working. But these women, they're seeing, well, it ain't working to bring the men over or back home, but I'm making a bag, I'm making money off of putting out this energy that I'm in my feelings about what they doing. So I'll just go ahead and build my career, build my platform off of being the angry Black woman. I don't know what that might be doing to their blood pressure, their vitals, whatever, because I just can't imagine just living my life just every stream that I do is something negative. Like, I just can't even imagine. Mind, these people be like putting out content after content and they just be mad in their feelings. And it's just like, wow, there's nothing positive to talk about. It's like everything is just negative. And it's like when you have that type of energy, what makes somebody want to gravitate towards you? We're all energy. So why would somebody want to even come and even holler at you? Like they like, oh my God, this person is angry. They got some stuff to work through. Let me go on and, move on to the next. Like, to me, it's not helping them. But at the same time, are these women that just want to just complain. And it's not about, okay, I want to be in a good, healthy relationship. I just like being able to sit in my feelings because it gives me something to talk about on my platform and to build, because these people's platforms are really growing. So it's just like, there's money here to just bash these men. So even if I'm sleeping next to a whole white man, I see that there's money here for me to, bash the black man. So I'm just going to continue to do that. And the same can go for even the men, when they have their platforms and they're bashing the women. And it's just like, okay, well, if you saying Becky is better or Isabella is better, Maria is better, like, why do you keep talking about the black woman? So are you just talking about her because you really low key, like you really just want Keisha to have some act right and you want her to come home, you want to be with her, but you're not outright saying that. You figure, okay, again, if I shame Keisha, talk about her like a dog, tell her she ain't nothing, she gonna get her act together. No, it don't work like that either. As I say, it's almost like a kid when you're in a playground and you pull the little girl pigtail, and then the girl, like, the teacher be like, oh, he pulls your hair because he likes you, because they don't know how to use their words. Like, to me, that's that kid, that energy that I get. What are we doing? What is that doing for anybody when we demonstrate that type of energy that shows that we are limited in the area of communication? We don't know how to effectively use our words to talk to one another, to say, listen, Keisha, I really do want to be with you. I really do, but I just wish we could work on this. Can we try to work on this? Can we go to counseling? Like, I've heard couples talk about how counseling have really been a game changer for their relationships, in particular when it comes to communication. But it's like people really don't want to put the work in. They'd rather just be like, oh, well, I'm just move on to the next. And I know what it is to kind of have that energy. Oh, well, I'll move on to the next, because I was that person years ago prior to getting married, meeting my husband. Like, even during our dating years, the 4 years we dated before getting married, I kind of had that energy, because that's all I seen. I seen, okay, when the going get tough, you leave, because like that's what I saw. So that's what I did. And then when I got married, it's like, oh, snap, you can't just run. You can't do that. You actually got to work through things. And then especially when you got kids in the equation, it's just like, so that's kind of where I learned to work through things. But as we said, a lot of women aren't married, so they don't even know nothing about that, as to experiencing a marriage and seeing what it's like to work through things. And they dang sure didn't see it in their household, because more than likely mama and daddy wasn't married, because remember, only 29% of our people are married. So they weren't seeing it. So they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And that's why I come on here, because there are things that I know many people don't know. And I feel like it's time for me to share it, because people really don't know. They just stuck in their feelings at home or whatever, growing old, getting fat, eating bonbons, like sitting on the couch. Like, people, nobody's putting the work in. It's just like they've just thrown in the towel. Like, people are like, okay, it is what it is. Men ain't ish. These women ain't nothing. I'm just going to go to Asia or get me a mail order bride. Like, everybody trying to take the easy way out. And it's doing nothing for our community. And our babies are growing up seeing this. And more often than not, they're going to repeat it. More often than not, they're going to repeat it. Because from what the stats show, children who come from a two-parent household are more apt to grow up and to have two-parent households, as far as when they make a life with someone. So if most of us grew up in like a single-parent household or seeing dysfunction, again, we're more apt to repeat that. And that's how the cycle continues. We have to start showing a different example. We got to start showing something different. And that's what I come on here for, to show or to talk about something different. And I know a lot of people out there have never seen what it looked like. They might have heard about it, or maybe maybe the one or two examples they have might be some elderly person, or somebody in their 60s, not someone as young as myself. I'm 40 years old. So as I say, I've been married. October be 17 years. Been with my husband this month, 21 years. Yeah, because we dated 4 years before we got married. I got with my husband like 3 months before my 20th birthday. I was super young. My husband is 11 years older than me. So that made a difference too, just from the maturity of getting with a man who knew what he wanted, who was at a different point in his life. And me being a young girl, me already knowing what type of life that I wanted, and me recognizing a good man when I saw one. So it saved me from having to experience a lot of the drama and the hardships that I know my ladies in our community experience. Like, I know that's a real thing, but I made decisions. I moved with intent, and at an early age, I knew what quality looked like. So when I saw it, I said, hey, this is something I want to hold on to. And that's what I did. And here we are. So that's the thing with ladies, we can't be so surface. And even fellas, we can't be surface and just want to look at the aesthetics of someone. Ladies got a big butt and a smile. Dude 6'5", got a nice body. Like, it got to be more than that. Because just because somebody got good looks don't mean they have substance. I'll say that again. Just because somebody have good looks does not mean they have substance. And what we're seeing based off of these numbers is showing that there's a lot of people out there that don't have substance. In particular, as we're seeing with the women, because we're seeing more of these babies more with them versus men. But it's like women are saying what they want, but they're moving in a different manner. Like, you saying you want this good money, this and that, but how you think you finna get him if you continuing to have these babies with Pookie and Ray? Like, how are we getting there when we continue to make these decisions that we're making that's unfavorable for our lives and the quality of our lives and the quality of the children that we're bringing into this world? Like, we gotta look at it. You know, ladies, think about if, say, you came across a man and he crossed your path and he had, you know, all these kids. Like, would you want to stop and give this person your time when you're seeing signs of just reckless behaviors, you know, in their life? And then, you know, you're on the up and up. Are you going to kind of want to stop and kind of give them that energy? Probably not. So it's the same thing. We got to look at it from both sides. And people, I think a lot of people just only look at things from their own point of view. And that's where we as a people, we go wrong, because you can't do that. You can't look at things from just one point of view. That's not how we grow. You grow by being open to hearing other people's thoughts and ideas, agreeing to disagree, like communicating, having effective communication. That's how we grow. We can't just be one-sided and just only view things. And first of all, if you are like that, you're either still by yourself, or if you are with somebody, they probably planning a exit, because ain't nobody trying to be with somebody like that. Like, just so you know, hint, if you doing anything like that, the person you're with don't like that. They don't. And they're probably just there temporarily. So we have to be open to other people's thoughts and opinions, good or bad. Like, we got to be open. We got to be willing to have conversations. So if you can, just like, share, subscribe. I just want to get on here and just to share my thoughts pertaining to the topic, since it was, you know, I seen a few people kind of on YouTube kind of talking about this, or like I said, people, you know, jumping in my comments and, you know, making comments about babies and who's having them. So do your own research, you know, put a comment down below. Let me know, you know, what your thoughts are pertaining to, you know, this topic. You know, right? Did I get it wrong? Am I misinterpreting the data? You know, are more men having babies than women? Like, we can talk about it. So again, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you'll know when I go live. And it's always nice to be able to, interact as I do a live. So thanks, Southpaw Dominance, for joining. But yeah, so until the next broadcast, have a good night. Peace.